Alrighty everybody, here we go. Today we've got the front end hub bearing we're going to replace on this 2005 Suzuki Eiger. And let's get started, shall we? Okay. You'll have a cotter key here and you'll have a cotter key back here you'll see in the picture. Go ahead and remove those. Okay. Grab a 1 and a 1/16 socket. Go ahead and pop your nut off. Put it off to the side. Okay. Okay, the caliper is a 6mm. I've already broke them. Most of the stuff I've already broke so that we can do time constraint. You'll have two upper and lower 6mm bolts that hold your caliper on. There's no washers. And they are 6mm hex head. Okay. Go ahead, remove the caliper. Put it off to the side somewhere where it won't get hurt. Okay, go ahead and work. Pull the hub off, look at it. Jeez, damn. It's a good time to take a look at everything. Make sure it's okay. Put it off the side. Okay. Now when you get here, you're going to have three 10mm bolts that hold the plate on. Take it off, and then you'll notice how your protecting plate, flatten it back out, beat it, paint it to match, whatever, when you get to it. Part of your inspection. Okay, now we're in here. There's your hub, your upper and lower, and your tie rod, or your steering rod, whichever anybody wants to call it. Okay. That one is going to be a 14mm. Okay. There is a washer with this. A lock washer. I'm going to grab you a piece of wood. That. One thing I do is I do get out and mix, or not mix. One thing I do is I go ahead, if I get this the night before, everything I know I'm going to take apart, I go ahead and PB blaster everything. Alright. Next spot is the knuckle, or the hub. Okay. That will be a 12mm. Okay, that's the lower. Upper. It's a good time to also double check and see what your bolts look like. And if you notice on this one, it's a little worn. I got a sneaking suspicion we've got a lower that's got problems. And the upper looks somewhat okay, but it's good. Just go ahead and replace them. Okay. Then take out your wood. Come back here. Move your steering knuckle a little bit, left or right, whichever you need. And it pops. Okay. Come back. Steering knuckle again. Yeah. My normal piece of 2x4 is missing in action. Okay. That's keep your drive link or drive shaft in. There you go. And you have the hub. pretty gnarly. Seals are chewed up. I can already tell you from the looks of it, there's water in there, and the whole thing, seals and bearings have to be replaced. Alright, now that we've got our bearing here, and we know that we're going to go ahead and replace the seals, you can do it a couple ways. You can come in with a screwdriver and just slowly, if you want to try to save them, but these are already torn, and I can say that we're not going to save them. So you don't have to be real gentle, but you just basically kind of get in there, twist it, pry up, go around, and there you go. Okay? Throw that outside, you don't need it. Do the same thing for the front. Come in top of it, just pop it, and it'll pop right out. When you go to do this, I recommend replacing them. Don't keep them, but if you're in a pinch, you have to, so be it. Okay, now inside is a spacer in between both of these. Now what you can do is take your pry or your punch, kind of see if you can push it to one side. If not, you might have to tap it to one side. It's common, because what you got to do is get that so that you can get to that other bushing. Not this one, but the one below. This bushing. The spacer, bushing. So you got to move the spacers so you can get to that bushing. Okay, just gentle little persuasion. Go left. Don't try to hit the spacer. All right. Now your spacer's wobbling in there, so now you can move it. Okay. Slowly work it. Okay. Now that we know that we're pretty flush, it's ready to come out. Put it in something that can hold it. If you've got a bearing swedge kit, press kit, cup works perfect. Okay. Let's go back. And there you go. Keep your spacer. Here's your bearing. Now the other bearing. It's a little awkward, but what I use, you can use a socket, but I use a bushing kit. Like right down in the center. Like a bushing driver. It's been well used. Put it in there. Slowly work it, and you'll see presto, it's out. All you got to do now is clean this up. That's what we're going to do next. Check everything and make sure everything's healthy. Alright, you ready to put the new bearing in? Take a little WD-40, run it around. Go ahead, grab your bearing. Start using it. And then grab start working it around. Getting there. Okay. That tells me she's good. We're seated, and the bearing spins freely. Okay. Now, just before I go ahead and put that other bearing in, I'm gonna squirt some grease around inside. Just a corrosion preventative. Spacers in there. Just want to a little bit around it. Okay. Now you got it somewhat where you need it. Take your new bearing. Little WD-40 action around inside. Okay. Not too much. Okay. You got your spacer in there. Okay, going in. Once it starts, the rest is history. Keep making sure your spacer is where it needs to be in there. Okay. Because this one drives in further. Sweat like a pig. The air conditioner in the garage is shut off. You don't want the noise. Make sure that you got enough grease on your hands that you can't get your tool out. Alright. Seated there. We're seated there. And inside, the spacer is perfect. It's right where it needs to be. Now, check and see what your bearings are doing. They're rolling together. Everything's happy. I took the old bearing and just lightly went across it with a die grinder while it spun on its own, and just went back and forth, up and down, and put a new taper on it, and pretty much it's a great driving tool. And then you can put it in your box, save it for a rainy day when you need to use it again. Okay, one thing I like to do, make sure I'm lubed up on the inside and the outside of the seal. I pack it just as an extra precaution. Go ahead. Some will get started, it'll fight you. It'll wobble around. It's okay. Just gotta persuade it a little bit with your thumbs. Work it. It'll try to pop on you in another spot. It's alright. Because your little bearing tool, put it right back over it. Okay. You can tell we are in. It's down. It's right at the bearing. So there we go. Next will be the back one. Alright, so now we're ready to put in the back seal. We've got the front ready. It's all dirty. But what we're going to do is go ahead and put in the back seal. I've already greased it up, ready to go. Make sure it's all lubey and happy. I do spray our friend WD-40 around inside. And just a little film. Just kind of work it around. Okay. I use a 1 5/8 socket. Basically go around, push the seal in. Some of you are going to say, well, that's going to damage it. No, it doesn't. Okay. Holding it. Make sure the seal's not sticking out anywhere. Press down. Make sure you got good contact. Move it around if you need to. Okay. And you are seated. You're in. Around the bearing. And see All you do is do this. Hello everybody, how we doing today? Excellent, glad to hear it. Alright, so here we go. Now we've got everything greased up, replaced, and hub's ready to go. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here to Mr. Drive Shaft, slide him in there, slide that down in there. You might have to work it a little bit, might be a little bit of a pain. Okay, that's in there. And you're going to have to pivot a little bit, work it up there, okay? Work it around, okay? And then you can put and connect your, okay. Now you got everything in there, everything's sandwiched in there. So now what you want to do is go ahead and start your bolts. If you notice, we went ahead and we've got new bolts in. These are Suzuki bolts. So what I usually like to do is go ahead and get them in there. But I don't use an impact. I like to just go ahead and get them started. The reason why I start by hand is because I have a good chance, if you can feel, that you don't want to be marring up the cutout on the upper and lower ball joints. Okay, so what I normally do is just go ahead and slowly let it pull itself in there. Okay, these are 12mm bolts. Okay, so I just go ahead and go and start feeling it. And it doesn't take much. You can feel it pulling in there. Okay. And what this does is also help seat it, puts it right where it needs to be. Now, I do get that one down a little bit. I do the same for the top. And the reason why is, like I said, you don't want that bolt marring up and tearing up everything. Okay? So we go ahead, we got it, and just snug it. Come back down here to this one. This one's going to be a little bit of a bear because it's brand new. And these have Loctite that come with them so that you don't have to Loctite them. Okay. And just get it down there where it stops. Okay. Make sure that you still got your pivot. Everything seems like it's doing its job. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and reconnect our steering rod back here. Get it in there. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Different models, you're going to have different issues with these. Some where you can stick a 12mm wrench right here. Some of them don't. This one does not. But we'll go ahead, we'll get the nut and everything started. Okay. You got the steering. It's going to have to pull it in there a little bit. That's okay. You got a lock washer and a regular nut with cotter key holes. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and get them started. And remember what I said, some of these lollipops have 12mm access and some don't. This one does not. This one's 14mm. You just go ahead and get up there, wrench it down. Okay. You'll see where it sits. And it's pulled in there. Okay. You got that. Got everything pretty much situated. Everything still works. Alright. Now that you've got this, you've got everything pretty much ready to go. Now we'll go ahead and put on the heat shields. One thing I recommend doing, especially with these heat shields, is getting a little blue Loctite and putting it on here. Alright, now you got it on here. Come up here. Get everything started. You don't want to run this down with an impact or something similar. And the reason why is these will strip out. I have seen it happen. You can have the nut just completely, or the bolt completely go bad. Get that way. Okay. torque it, and torque it. Okay. Next spot we're going after, bringing in the hub. Just remember that you got to have this on first before you put this on, or you'll be taking it all back apart. All right. So we'll go ahead, get this situated on here. Work it on, work it in, work it around. Boom, now we're in. Okay, make sure that shaft is somewhat close up to it as best as it can be. Then you take your conical washer. Remember what I said about conical washers? Conical washer is curved like this. You want this part, the top crown part, towards the nut. And you want the cove part towards your hub. Okay, so go ahead, just get it down there. Get it on there and get it started. Okay, right now would be a good time to do a straight on and make sure that your shield, you can bend it a little bit if you need to, but it's a good time just to make sure your shield will not interfere with the rotor or the hub, or if you put when you put your brakes in, you just want to make sure that it's straight out doing its job. Okay? Okay, now that you've got your caliper setting out, it's time to put the caliper on. Okay, I put new brakes on, so I'll have to go into the brake reading procedure. But you just go ahead, you slide it on, grab your bolts. It's more blue Loctite or something on there. A little bit of the love of it. Okay, and from the back, you'll see in the pictures. You just go ahead and get them started. And remember, they are interchangeable, so they don't interfere. You can put top of bottom and bottom one on the top, it don't matter. Okay? You always want to start your hardware by hand. You don't want to use wrenches and stuff because you have a good chance if it catches wrong, it'll tear it up. Okay? Alright. Pretty much got that down there and seated and ready to go. Now, you can see that for this, you still have access for everything. So when you go to torque, you've got everything perfectly open. You can turn your wheel in whatever direction you need for accessibility. Okay? So the next step for us is finally torquing and putting in the cotter keys. Now we're going to go into torque. Okay. Now, this is per the Suzuki manual. Okay, your brake calipers, each one of these is 19 foot-pounds or 156 inch-pounds. Okay? Both upper and lower ball joints are 43 foot-pounds or 522 inch-pounds. Okay? Your big nut is 79.5 foot-pounds or 954 inch-pounds. Your tie rod back here, this one is 29 foot-pounds or 348 inch-pounds. Okay? And I'll be calling it out as I go ahead and start torquing. Okay? So the first spot I'm going to go after, the calipers. So, like I said, the calipers are at 19 foot-pounds or 156 inch-pounds. And I'm going to torque them to 156 inch-pounds. Okay? Torque. Torque. Okay? And what I ended up using was 6mm for the upper and lower caliper. Both upper and lower ball joints are 43.5 foot-pounds or 522 inch-pounds. I will be using a foot-pound torque wrench. Torque. Okay. next spot we're going to go for is the big nut. Big nut, the socket size for it is a 1 1/16, and it is 79 foot-pounds, 79.5 foot-pounds, or 954 inch-pounds. I am going to use the foot-pound torque wrench and take her to 79.5. When I go to do this, I set it up the same way as I do on most of them. Put the nut on here, nut here. When I torque these, I set them up this way so that when I torque, I can put the pressure on there. Okay. Remember, and always be mindful, this will shoot out at you if it can. So when you torque, if you want, just do it like that. Yeah. And perfect. Oh, straight shot. So we are good. And last will be our steering. It's back here. I know I don't have a camera on it, but I'll put a picture off the side. That one is a 14 millimeter socket and will be torqued to 29 foot-pounds or 348 inch-pounds. Okay, we are torqued. Okay, make sure you're still moving good. Make sure there's no real weird wobbles. Make sure everything is sound as a pound. Okay, and be mindful that this, if you move on it, it will bend. Okay. Now that you have your cotter keys all done, it's a good time to go ahead, spray down with brake clean or whatever cleaner you have that doesn't leave a film, and clean your rotors. Now that you have everything clean and everything is ready to go, do another visual check to make sure that you've got everything taken care of. Everything torqued, your links, everything else. Make sure you spin freely. Okay. You'll hear a little bit of the brake drag. So, now you go ahead and grab your tire. And mount it. Also, make sure that you put your boot on. Some people like to just leave them off, pull them outside. Well, they do kind of serve a purpose. They kind of help protect that nut. Okay? Run these down. Go ahead and start running these down. You can run it by hand. Okay? But what you want to do is make sure that the cone piece starts going into the actual tire rim itself. Okay? Just go ahead, keep tightening down. And the boot is the boot. Okay. For these, per the manual, these are supposed to be torqued to 43.5 foot-pounds or 522 inch-pounds. So, I'm going to use 43.5. Okay? And when you do these, just go back through, make sure it's all the way secure. And if you need to, have somebody hold it, put a little weight on it. Put a piece of tire, or I mean something in here that you can wedge. Okay, and then just go ahead, work, go across, okay, and go to your other one, cross, then go to your other one over here and cross. There, make it a little easier. Now, I started here, went here, went here, and went here. As long as you go kind of in a cross motion of, you can go here, 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 here. As long as you go in a cross motion, you will be fine. That's what you want to do so that it actually sets the tire perfectly on there. Then what I usually do, will come behind, and do a circular torque. Oh, and it is a 17 millimeter socket. All right. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask. Leave comments down below. I hope this video has helped you. Have safe ridings, and always be mindful and check out your equipment as much as you can. That's all I can tell you. This is Trav. You have a great day and take care of each other.